for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to all of our wonderful witnesses and those joining us online as well. Mr. Fulton, I just like a couple questions for you. You mentioned non-tariff barriers, and my understanding is UK beef exports to Canada have recently surged quite high. I think well over 170% or something. Is that, as I understand, is that correct?
I'm not certain of the percentages, but yes, absolutely. Over the course of the last 3 years, that's the trend.
Right. And how have beef exports from Canada been to the UK?
They are unchanged at zero.
Right. So we have obviously an issue with, we have a trade agreement supposed to abide by the rules, but there's also these non-tariff barriers, as we discussed, that also prevents Canadian producers from accessing that market, yet we've allowed access from, like, reciprocal access is not actually occurring, right? That's in fact happening today.
That's exactly right, yes.
And is that your risk, the risk that you're highlighting, or the concern that you have with agreements with Mercosur or others, that, hey, you could sign a trade agreement, but we could be in the same situation where we have stuff coming in, but we can't have our stuff going out?
No, I wouldn't say that that's... I think that's a valid concern, 100%. But the focus really of our concern really is the possibility of Canada becoming a bit of a dumping ground for South American product that may be a backdoor access into the U.S. And I want to be extremely clear about this. Our American counterparts have made it explicitly clear that they are watching with a very, very watchful eye for that origin product coming in through back channels into the United States. And that poses a very significant risk to the trade that we currently benefit from with the U.S. We can't put that at risk. Further to that, there's another issue that quite simply is it's of a comparable level, and that is we don't have confidence in the things like the disease surveillance systems that are in place in South America. They have a track record of having dubious reporting and surveillance mechanisms that quite simply do not meet the standard that we've become accustomed to.
Thank you very much. So just so I understand, beef could come in from another country, not just displace Canadian beef here, but also find its way into the U.S., which would challenge our relationship with the Americans, of which is our largest trading partner for your producers.
Yep, that's exactly right. Currently, the U.S. represents $6 billion of $7 billion in exports of beef. Of course, there's over and above that, there's the live cattle trade. But that's what is at risk if we start seeing a significant flow of beef flowing into Canada, notwithstanding the disease-related risk that quite simply is not measurable.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your testimony and highlighting those risks for us as we, consider other potential agreements and discussions that the government might have. Mr. Collins, I have under a minute left, but do you have an opinion on whether the 232 tariffs are in fact legal, or would you have a view that, it's Congress's legal right to impose something that looks like a sales tax? Is that something you would have an opinion on?
Well, I have to say, look, I'm not an expert in U.S. law, although I am admitted to the New York bar. My expertise, to the extent that I have it, is international law. However, from what I've read, my sense is that they're probably not legal under U.S. law. And it looks indeed that the courts in the U.S. are probably going to rule that they are indeed illegal. These are powers that fall into the hands of Congress, not the president. So that's my sense, but I wouldn't claim to be an expert in U.S. law.
Well, I'll take that as great advice. Thank you very much for your testimony. Thanks, Madam Chair.
53 seconds.
Oh, perfect. I look at extra time. How did you know? Okay, so Mr. Collins, let's just stay with you. You mentioned about more of the international scene and the changing or impacts of investment. What would you say are the risks to Canada from what you're seeing today in terms of the changing dynamic in the world?
Well, the main risks I would say from the perspective of Canada is for Canadian investors going abroad and seeking to invest in foreign markets, particularly, let's say, the EU, which seems to be taking a quite a stringent approach to these national security issues. Now, that's going to differ by member state, and this is very much a member state power. So my concern would be for Canadian companies seeking to invest overseas in countries that are being really strict about their investment standards. To take another example, China. China has a new foreign investment statute. Now, over the years, China has somewhat liberalized its foreign investment regime. Their restricted list has gotten smaller and smaller, but it's still quite significant. And they could easily impose joint venture obligations, or worse, technology transfer obligations, and they could end up stealing intellectual property. Now, going the other way, of course, the other risk is companies coming into Canada might find that the Investment Canada Act is too strict, and it's actually barring companies that want to maintain a presence in Canada and contribute to the Canadian economy and increase competition, perhaps in sectors like telecoms and so on. So from the perspective of, let's say, a Canadian consumer, we would want to have more foreign investment in Canada, more liberalized to increase competition and consumer choice. So it's a fine balance to get this national security right, protect Canada's national security, but also to allow in foreign companies that can increase the competitive environment and make the Canadian markets more dynamic.
Thank you.